Hey guys, it's me, I'm back. Yay! Another video for the week. Got some awesome new nail colors thanks to Miss Gore. She's hooked me up, like it, pretty. And I'm feeling good. Took a nap today. We're all good. So, hope you guys are doing well. Last week we talked about simple interest. This week we're going to continue with interest, and we're going to talk about the other kind of interest called compound interest. So go ahead and take out your next blank page, or go to your next blank page in your journal, and I want you to go ahead and label that page compound interest. We're going to be answering this question today: how do I calculate compound interest? And then I want you to write down this definition of compound interest, just like we did with simple interest. So compound interest is the addition of interest to the principal sum of a loan or deposit. In the math world, in the finance world, they like to call it interest on top of interest. So that's why it's called compound interest. It's interest that compounds on each other. Okay. So there's a different formula, and I'm about to give you that formula. So if you need to pause this, you're more than welcome to pause this at any time. But here's the formula. Okay. The formula for compound interest is A equals P, and then we're going to put a parenthesis here. 1 plus 1, that's a 1, plus I, which is our interest, and we're going to close that parenthesis, and we're going to put it to the nth power. Nth power. Looks real crazy right now, but I'm going to break this down for you. So that's going to be our compound interest formula. So let's go ahead and talk about what the A means. The A is your final amount. So A comes from amount, including the principal. Okay. It's the final amount, including the principal. And then P, what do you think that stands for? Yes, it's the principal amount. Alright. And I, what do you think I is? If you said interest, you're right, it's the interest rate. Interest rate per year. And then N, wonder if you can figure that out. N is the number of years. I'm going to put this, it's not hashtag, that means number. Number of years invested. Okay, so I'm going to give you a word problem. Sophie, shout out to Sophie. How you doing? Sorry, I got your birthday wrong when I said the shout outs the other day. Sophie, I don't know why I did that. Sophie is buying a boat. For $11,000. The bank is offering compound interest. We're going to say it's called a compounded interest rate of 4% over 5 years. Okay, so 4%, let's say instead of over, for 5 years. Let's say for 5 years. I don't want you to get confused with that over word. Okay. So let's take this word problem and let's pick out the parts of it that are going to be in our formula. Sorry. Okay. So let's first look at the, we don't know the A. So we're just going to put A there. We're trying to figure out that amount. Okay, we're trying to figure out what's the final amount she's going to have to pay. Well, let's just write that question out so that you know what we're looking for. What's the final amount she will pay in 5 years? Over 5 years. Okay? Alright. I dropped my pen. I don't have much room here, but we're making it do. Okay? Alright. So, I have a principal amount of $11,000. That's how much she had to borrow from the bank. $11,000. And then the bank is offering a compounded interest rate at 4%. So now we know we can put this into our formula. 1 plus the interest rate. Okay, what happened to my red pen now? I dropped all my pens. I found it. It's down here. I got it. Sorry. Okay. So her interest rate per year is 4%. Remember, we need to put that in a decimal. And this needs to be in a decimal. Let's make sure we know that. Okay, decimal. So we're going to put that 4% in a 0.04. We're going to close that parenthesis. So we already have, look at the formula, 1 plus interest rate to the n, which is to the number of years that she has invested it, or she is borrowing. So that's 5 years. 5 years. Okay, so the 5 is our time, or the number of years that's our n, and 4% was our interest rate. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what we can do to figure this out. Okay, so order of operations tells us to do the parentheses first, PEMDAS, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 1 plus 0.04. When you do that, you get 1.04. Okay, we do this first. 1.04 to the 5th power. So we're going to raise that to the 5th power. That's an exponent. Alright? Parentheses, exponent, then multiply. PEMDAS. Okay? So, I'm going to tell you how to do that on a calculator, like a phone. So 1.04, what I want you to do is turn your phone like this. When you do that, you get a lot more operations on the side of your calculator. And you're going to go press the XY function. That is the exponent function. We're going to put it to the 5. And that gives us 1.04 to the 5th power. Okay? So essentially that's 1.04 times 1.04 times 1.04 times 1.04 times 1.04 times 1.04. Okay? So that's what that's doing right there. It's to the 5th power. Okay? So we need to write this down. And I'm just going to do 2 decimal points. So now we're at 1.2. Let's just round that to 1.22. Okay? And now we need to take that and multiply that times 11,000. So 11,000 times 1.22. 13,420. Okay, so now you can see this is how much she will pay over time. So her extra money that she paid over interest, that she paid in interest, we can get by just subtracting the principal that she borrowed, and we would get 2,420. That's the amount of interest she paid in 5 years. and this is the total amount she pays. That's that big A she paid, okay? All right, so now let's look at our packet. So we did simple interest last week. We're going to do compound interest today. How do you solve compound interest? Okay, first what I want you to do is I want you to write down the formula for compound interest at the top. So remember, this was simple interest. Okay, so compound interest is A equals P times 1 plus the interest all to the N. And so we can go back and say this is your final amount. This is your principal. Okay. 1 plus interest rate. And make sure that's a decimal, just like last week. And then N is the number of years. Okay. Alright, so in our own words, how would you say compound interest is interest compounded each year and applied to the principal. Okay? Alright. So instead of filling out this whole chart here, okay, I want you to, we're gonna skip this for time's sake, and we are going to do our formula. So what this is essentially breaking down is the formula, okay? So this chart is, you could figure out the interest each year. So you would say at 0 years, for this one, remember the balance to begin with was $100 times, and then they would want you to get your account balance times the rate. So your account balance times the rate, so 100 times 0.05, okay, the rate is 5%, remember? So it's your account balance times 0.05, so this would be 100, times 0.05, and it would be 5, plus 5, okay? Plus 5, so that would be 105. So now we would go down here, and our new account balance is 105. So now our new account balance, we would do 105 times 0.05. That's $5.25. So now your new account balance would be this, or interest payment plus this, $110.25. Okay, and then you would carry that number. That's your new balance, and you would do the same thing, and you would work your way down all the way to 10 years, or you could just do our formula amount at the end, okay, is your principal, which was what was our principal? $100. That was the initial investment in the savings account, times, that's what the formula is, a shortcut. It does all of this work for you, times 1 plus the interest rate, 0.05 to the number of years, which is 10. Okay, so let's look at our calculator again. Remember, I just told you how to do that. It's going to be 1.05 to the 10th power. So xy 10. Okay, so 1.05 to the 10th equals 1.63. We're going to reduce that to 2 decimal places after the decimal. And then times 100. Okay, so 1.63 times 100. .63 times 100 is 163. Okay, so that's what the final amount is going to be down here. Your final balance is going to be $163. Okay, and if you were to work this out and keep going, you might see that it might be a few cents off. That's because we rounded this over here, so it might be a little bit off. So you can see over time, you would have $163 in after 10 years here, and only $150 if you use simple interest. So the interest on top of interest, compound interest, is a much better deal. So what would be the best? What would you, if you're going to deposit money and invest it like here, would you rather do it with compound interest or simple interest if they're both the same rates? Yes, you would want to do compound interest because it would give you more interest back. I mean, more money at the end. It would leave you with $163, and over here it was only $150. Now, on the flip side, if you're borrowing this amount of money, like if you're borrowing $100 and you had compound interest and simple interest, they were both the same rates and they're both the same amount of time. Over time, with compound interest, you would be paying $163 to borrow $100, and with simple interest, you would only be paying $150. So you would want to do simple interest if you're borrowing money. Okay. All right. So let's take a look here. We have this option 3 and 4. We have 4% interest. So again, let's write this down. A equals principal. The principal is $17,525. That's how much they want to borrow here to buy this car. And that's times 1 plus the interest rate, which is 4%, 0.04, and 72 months. Now, 72 months, we can put that in years. This equals 6 years. Okay, so 6 would be that. Alright, so then, let's see here. It would be 1.04 to the 6. Oops. Okay, 1.26, 1.27. Okay. And then we're going to do 1.27 times 17,525, because that's our next step, is to multiply it here to get the amount. Okay, so 1.27 times 1.27 times 17,525, and that's going to give you 22,256.75. Okay, so total to be repaid, you've only borrowed $17,000, but if you're doing compound interest on this option 2, then you're going to be paying back this much because you're borrowing almost $5,000 in interest. Okay, so down here, you can do this one yourself. This is your interest rate. I'll set it up for you. 17,525 times 1 plus your interest rate, 0.04, at 48 months, which is 4 years. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and do that in your calculator and see what this is, 1.04 to the 4th, okay, and then multiply that times 17,525, put that number here, and then you need to figure out what is the best options? What would be the best option? Option 1, 2, 3, or 4. And I want you to circle the best option for me. Okay? So, let's look back here. One more thing. We're going to wrap up the interest part here. Jessica deposited $350 in an account that earns 5% simple annual interest. Avery deposited $350 in an account that earns 5% compounded annually. They leave the money with no withdrawal, so they don't take any money out, okay, or put any money in deposits for 3 years. How much interest will each person earn after the 3 years? This is so much fun. I'm serious. Okay, so over here is simple interest. She's using simple interest. And over here, she's using compound interest. Alright, so the first thing I want you to do is write your formula. Interest equals P times R times T. And over here, it's A equals what? P times 1 plus I to the N. Okay? Alright, so we'll start with simple interest. I, that's what we're trying to figure out, this is just going to give you the interest, right? You have to add that to the principal at the end. The principal is $350, that's for Jessica, times the rate, 0.05, times the time, 3 years, okay? So you could figure out what the interest is when you multiply that together. That's going to give you just the interest. You need to remember, add your I back to your principal to see how much she will have in her account after 3 years. So your first question is this: how much interest will she pay? And then how much will they have in their account? That's the balance. So put the answer to number 1 here and number 2 here. This is interest, how much interest, and then account balance. And for that, this is where you add your I back to your P, your principal, interest back to your principal. Okay? Over here, you're going to take the principal, which is $350. She has $350, earns 5% interest. So 1 plus 0.05 over 3 years. So you're going to need to figure out what 1.05 to the third is, and then multiply that times 350, and that's going to give you the final amount. Okay? That's going to give you the final amount, which is number 2. That's the second part. That's your A. To get the first question, how much interest will each person earn, you're going to have to subtract your subtract your principal from your final amount, which is your A. Okay? That's how you get number 1. Alright, so that's all I got for you today, guys. I do know that some of you have asked me some questions on some regular math questions. What I'm going to do is I'm thinking that there's probably some people who have those same questions. So if you have texted me a question, or parents have texted me a question from regular math section, we're going to be Zooming tomorrow at, that's Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And I will go through and answer those regular math questions then. I didn't want to do it here. I decided not to because I didn't want to confuse you going back from interest to some regular math concept. So we're just going to cover interest here, and then next week we only have, we'll do step 1 of the Pythagorean theorem, and then step 2 of the Pythagorean theorem after that, and then we'll be done. Wow! Okay, remember, if you want to go ahead and watch some videos online of how to do Pythagorean theorem, teach yourself, you can go ahead and finish all of this work in this supplement. Like, you go through and finish all of this. I sent out an answer document on, it's a forum in Google document, in Google Classroom. You can fill that out. You need to finish the regular math section and this pre-algebra supplement before you start entering your answers, because you can't save it. Like, you can, once you enter it, you have to enter all of it and then submit it. You can't just enter some and save a little at a time. So enter all your answers, submit them to me, and then you're done. Okay? But I do want to tell you, we have to have something that we have to have proof that you are working each week. So if you're coming to Zoom meetings, if you're asking questions, or whenever you submit your answer document, I can see that you've done everything. That's going to show me that you have been working. Even if you do it early, like you finish early, I will give you credit for the whole time. Okay? So you need to make sure you're pacing yourself there. If you want to finish early, that's totally up to you and your parents, but it's not required. I'll be back next Monday with a video on step 1 of the Pythagorean theorem. Alright, bye guys. Miss you. Have a good Monday. I'll see you in Zoom tomorrow at 2 o'clock on Tuesday. See ya.